English Talk Show. Learn English through real conversations.
That's a great way to put it. When you think in English, you're not just taking in information, you're really immersing yourself in a culture.
And that cultural immersion can even have a ripple effect on other parts of your language learning journey, too.
Oh, for sure. Hey there, language explorers. Ever get that feeling like you're speaking English, but there's this little translator running in the back of your head?
Well, in this deep dive, we're going to try and tackle how to train your brain to think in English.
That's right. We've got a really cool lesson plan to help guide us. And trust me, this is way more than just practice makes perfect.
It really is. We're going to be digging deep into how our brains work when we become fluent and give you some really practical strategies that go beyond just surface-level advice.
Be sure to subscribe to the Everyday English channel for more helpful tips and lessons. A PDF version of this lesson is available for download in the description and the pinned comment.
Okay, so the lesson plan kicks off with a really interesting question. Why even bother with thinking in English?
I mean, isn't it enough to just know the grammar and vocabulary?
Well, imagine this. You're having a conversation, but in your head, you're translating every single thought before you say it.
Oh, wow. That's kind of like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle.
Yeah, you might be able to pull it off, but it's going to be pretty clunky and exhausting.
Totally. I could see how that would get in the way of having a really smooth conversation. The lesson plan actually calls this a mental bottleneck.
That's exactly it. It's like a traffic jam in your brain. This bottleneck basically means your working memory is completely overloaded.
Right. And this part of your brain is super crucial for processing language. It gets totally bogged down by all that translating.
It slows you down and makes it really difficult to just express yourself naturally.
So thinking directly in English frees up all that working memory space.
Yeah, and allows for that more natural flow of conversation.
Exactly. But how do we actually rewire our brains to do that?
The lesson plan talks about the immersion principle, which, let's be honest, sounds kind of intimidating.
Yeah, I can see that. It sounds a bit intense, but think of it less like jumping into the deep end of a pool.
And more like gradually getting used to the water, wading in a little bit each day.
The idea is to just surround yourself with English as much as possible.
So, like switching to English news channels, listening to podcasts like this one, or reading English books.
Those are all good steps in the right direction.
Absolutely. The more your brain encounters English in a natural setting, the easier it becomes to processing the language directly without relying on your native language as a crutch.
That makes a lot of sense. The lesson plan even suggests aiming for 30 minutes of focused English time each day.
Right, which honestly seems pretty doable. It's like a workout for your brain.
It is. But what are some practical techniques to make this immersion really effective?
That's where the exercises come into play. The first one uses podcasts to kind of activate your English brain.
Oh, this is right up my alley. I love podcasts.
Perfect. So here's how it works. It's all about active listening. Before you even hit play, spend just a minute brainstorming any English words you can think of that are related to the podcast topic.
So you're basically priming your brain to start thinking in English from the get-go.
Exactly. Then listen without pausing or translating. Just let the English flow over you.
Okay. The key is to resist that urge to translate everything in your head.
Got it. And afterwards, try and summarize the key points you heard, but do it in English.
Right. You could make a mind map, a list, or even just talk it out with yourself. If you have a language partner, even better. You could discuss the podcast with them.
Yeah, that's a great way to solidify your understanding.
It's like those stretches you do after a workout to help your muscles recover.
You're actively engaging with the language. You're flexing those mental muscles.
That's a great analogy. I actually used to do something pretty similar when I was learning my second language.
Really?
I'd watch movies with subtitles on, but I'd force myself to focus on the language I was hearing, not just read the words on the screen.
That's brilliant. A perfect example of how the immersion principle can be applied in different ways.
The key is to find activities you actually enjoy and then incorporate English into those.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm really curious about the second exercise.
This one uses YouTube, but not in the way you might think. It's super cool. It uses visual learning to help you connect images with English words without translating anything.
That's really intriguing. Tell me more.
Pick a video on a topic that interests you, and then watch the first minute on mute.
Wow, okay.
Pay close attention to what you're seeing and jot down all the English words that come to mind to describe those visuals.
Oh, that's a cool idea. It's like playing a visual vocabulary game.
Exactly. And if it feels too fast, just adjust the playback speed.
After that, look up any words you didn't know. But here's the catch. Look them up in English.
Use an English dictionary or an online resource. Challenge yourself to understand those definitions in English.
So no using translation apps.
Right. Then finally, re-watch the segment, but this time with the sound on.
That reinforces the connections between what you're seeing and the vocabulary you just learned.
Exactly. You're training your brain to think in English by linking images directly to words.
I love how this combines visual and auditory learning.
It's like cross-training for language fluency.
And that's such a good point. We all have different learning styles.
Some people thrive on listening. Others are more visual, and some need to move around and be hands-on.
It's all about finding your own language learning groove.
Now, those first two exercises are great for solo practice. But let's be real, at some point, you've got to actually speak English.
Absolutely. You can't avoid it forever. That's where the next exercise comes in, conversational practice.
This is about developing your ability to think on your feet and express your thoughts directly in English without that pesky inner translator.
So, find a language partner, join a conversation group.
Or even just chat with someone online.
The key is to create opportunities to actually use the language in real time.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're a totally natural part of the process.
It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall a few times before you really find your balance.
Exactly. But the more you practice, the more confident you become.
Embracing those stumbles and seeing them as learning opportunities is so important.
The more you push past that fear, the more natural speaking in English becomes.
And as you practice speaking, your ability to think in English improves too.
It's all connected. The speaking, the thinking, the listening.
They all reinforce each other.
Now, the final exercise in the lesson plan takes the idea of thinking in English to a whole new level.
It does. It's called timed self-narration.
It's about building the habit of describing your surroundings and actions in English, even when you're alone.
I'm intrigued. How does that work?
It's super simple. Set a timer for 5 minutes, or even just 2 if you're starting out, and then talk out loud in English about what you're doing, seeing, or planning to do.
Or you can just think it in your head if you don't want to speak out loud.
So if I'm making coffee, I might say, I'm grinding the coffee beans. The aroma is amazing. I'll add a splash of milk and enjoy a nice cup before I start working.
Exactly. You start with object names and actions, then move to full sentences. You can even use different tenses, past, present, future.
It's like creating a running commentary on your life in English.
And you can do it anywhere, anytime.
You're turning your everyday life into an English practice zone.
And it helps break that dependence on translation.
You're strengthening the pathways in your brain to make English feel natural.
It's like taking baby steps that lead to running a marathon.
One thought at a time.
One thought at a time.
Some people might feel a bit silly talking to themselves in English. Any tips to make it more fun?
For sure. Turn it into a game. Challenge yourself to use new vocabulary. Record yourself and listen back to track progress.
That's a great idea. You could even share the recordings with a language partner or tutor and get feedback.
The key is to make it engaging and rewarding.
Make thinking in English feel less like a chore and more like a natural part of your day.
This has been so insightful. I'm already inspired to try some of these exercises myself.
But before we wrap up, I think it's super important to highlight a key takeaway from the lesson plan.
Fluency isn't just about knowing a lot of words. It's about making English the language you actually think in.
Spot on. It's about changing your internal dialogue, your inner monologue, to English.
So it's not something you switch on and off when you speak. It becomes your default mode.
Exactly. It's about integrating English into the very fabric of your thoughts.
Making it a natural and effortless part of who you are.
That's a really powerful idea.
It's like learning to see the world through a new lens.
And once you reach that point, fluency becomes less about conscious effort and more about simply expressing yourself.
It's about unlocking that freedom of thought and expression that comes with mastering a language.
We've covered a lot: why thinking in English is important, the power of immersion, and 4 practical exercises.
And remember, consistency is key. Just like any skill, thinking in English takes time.
But the rewards? Totally worth it.
Imagine expressing yourself with confidence, understanding subtle meanings, and connecting deeply with others.
It's about opening doors, expanding your world,
and making English a real part of your life.